All rise.
Kosovo Specialist Chambers is now in session.
Mr. Court, good morning. Mr. Court Officer, can you please call the case?
Good morning, Your Honours. This is file number KC BC 2020-05, the Specialist Prosecutor versus Salih Mustafa.
Thank you, Mr. Court Officer. First of all, I will call appearances for the SPO who have been present. You have the floor.
Sorry. Good morning. This morning for the prosecution, Salim prosecutor, Julie Mann, case manager, Cristina Petrova, our legal intern, and Filippo De Mincis, myself, associate prosecutor.
Defense counsel, you have the floor.
Victims Counsel. Good morning, Your Honours. Present for the participating victims this morning are Victims Counsel, Annie Poes, and myself, Brechtje Vossenberg, co-counsel. Thank you.
Thank you, Victims Counsel. Defense counsel, you have the floor.
Good morning, Your Honor. Defense is represented by Betim Shala, co-counsel, myself, Julius von Bonnet, interpreter, investigator, Mr. Fatmir Pillai. In the courtroom is joining today Mr. Mustafa.
Thank you. Thank you very well. For the record, you appear in front of trial panel 1. We will hear today the testimony of defense witness 300. This is Mr. Yaqub Ismaili. But before we do that, I would like to give an oral order with regard to documents disclosed. One document disclosed this morning. The panel notes that the SPO has disclosed this morning an additional item to be used during the cross-examination of witness 400, indicating that item 105394 ET will also be used in the cross-examination of such witness. The panel notes that the term refers to a list of names of KLA veterans. Yes. For our understanding, that's a public, is that a public source?
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct.
Okay, thank you. The panel notes that the SPO has requested the panel's leave to use the newly disclosed material with witness 400 in cross-examination on Tuesday, 29 March 2022, via email sent at 9:01. The panel considers that the SPO has requested leave of the panel in accordance with paragraph 31 of the decision on the conduct of proceedings, which is filing 170, and it has indicated why such material was not previously disclosed. The panel finds that the SPO has shown good cause for not disclosing it previously and takes into account that it is open source material. The panel therefore authorizes the SPO to use such material during the cross-examination of defense witness 400. This concludes the panel's oral order. Very well. Then we will continue with the testimony of the defense witness number 400. Madam Court Usher, could you please usher the witness in? Mr. Ismaili, good morning. Welcome to the specialist chambers. Can you hear me?
إن جاي من
Yes, I do. Good morning.
المير.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Ismaili, today we will start with your testimony. Mr. Ismaili, you are called to testify before the specialist chambers in the case of the specialist prosecutor versus Salim Mustafa to assist the panel to reach a verdict. After you have taken your Salim declaration to tell the truth, you will be asked questions by the defense counsel of Mr. Mustafa. On your right-hand side, the lawyers representing the victims admitted to participate in this case. On your left side at the beginning, there, and the lawyers for the prosecution sitting next to them, and by us, the judges of the panel, who are sitting here. Yeah. I would like to provide you with some guidance for answering the questions that you will be asked. Mr. Ismaili, please listen carefully to each question. If you don't understand, feel free to ask the question to be repeated. We want you to tell the truth, to tell us what you saw, you heard, you experienced, you sensed. If you did not see or hear it yourself, or you found out in some other way, please tell us. You may not remember all the details. That is perfectly fine. If you don't know, just say, I don't know, but please don't guess. I also remind you that you may object to provide your testimony on issues that might tend to incriminate you, pursuant to Rule 151, Paragraph 1 of the rules. You have that right. Have you understood all that?
Yes.
To give you some practical advice too for your testimony. Everything we say here is translated and recorded. So it's important that you speak at a slow pace, that you speak clearly, and that you speak into the microphone. Yeah. And so in that way, the interpreters can translate everything. You should only start speaking when the person asking you a question has finished. Because if not, we have overlapping speakers, and then it becomes impossible to interpret. When a question is asked, please wait 5 seconds, I see you nodding, and only then give your answer. This pause of 5 seconds is essential for us to properly hear, translate, and record everything what is said in this courtroom. If you have any questions, if you need a break, just raise your hand and you will be given the floor. Have you understood all this, Mr. Ismaili?
Yes.
As we must do with every witness, I will ask you to read the Salim declaration to tell the truth. And I remind you that it is an offense within the jurisdiction of the specialist chambers to give false testimony. Have you understood that?
Yes.
Clerk, can you please assist the witness with his Salim declaration? Please, Mr. Ismaili, read the text provided to you.
Conscious of the significance of my testimony and my legal responsibility, I solemnly declare that I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and that I shall not withhold anything which has come to my knowledge.
Thank you, Mr. Ismaili. You are now under oath to tell the truth. We can now begin with the testimony of Mr. Ismaili, starting with the defense counsel's questioning. Defense counsel, you have estimated 2 hours for your questioning of this witness, and as usual, please inform the panel if you see that the planning goes otherwise. Yeah. You have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Witness.
نريدها.
Good morning.
Mr. Witness, I will ask you questions about the situation in 1999 and about your statement that you made earlier to us.
Very well.
Okay.
In 1999, in March, could you tell us where you were living?
Në mars të
In March of 1999, I lived in Pristina.
And could you describe a little bit the situation in Pristina and what exactly you were doing at the time in Pristina?
në vitin 1900.
In 1999, we dealt with issues related to humanitarian aid.
And was there a need in Pristina to deal with humanitarian aid at the time?
Po,
Yes,
That reason actually that humanitarian aid was necessary.
arsyeja ishte
the reason was that in Pristina there were displaced people coming from other war regions like Drenica, Dukagin, and other regions. It was indispensable for us to set up an emergency council to aid that population.
And you say that these population arrived in Pristina. Where would these people be accommodated?
populata streu.
The population was accommodated in our families, first of all, and in other families in Pristina and its outskirts.
What was it that you were working with or active with? Could you explain a little bit more about that?
Via e furnizimit me
The supply line for foodstuffs and other necessities for the population was supplied by people in villages where flour was gathered, especially in Kamenets. That is, most of our supplies came from Kamenitsa, from Mother Teresa organization, Red Cross, and other organizations.
And what was exactly the Municipal Council for Emergencies?
Këshilli Komunal
The communal municipal council for emergencies was set up by the Republican Council. That is, the provisional government in exile funded it, in addition to sending supplies along with other people. They funded us to purchase the necessary products like medicaments and others in Kosovo. And after we bought them and gathered them, we distributed them.
This Municipal Council for Emergency where was that located? Did it have one specific location, or did it have more locations?
Chile Comunal.
The emergency municipal council was set up in a private home in Velania.
And how many people at the time were active with this municipal council for emergencies? How many people were helping or doing activities?
Same kujtuhet aktiv ka qenë
To my recollection, there were about 12 or 13 people, but other councils, LDK entities were engaged too. They came and picked up, assistance or aid and distributed it in addition to our group.
You mentioned the LDK. In which way? What is that?
është një subjekt politik
It's a political entity that functioned at that time and even now.
That too?
edhe unë kam qenë
Yes, I was active too in this political entity.
demokratike Kosovë.
The Democratic League of Kosovo, that's how it's called.
Did the LDK activities were related to this municipal council of emergency? Was there any relation or involvement of the LDK in that?
LDK ishte për
The LDK was involved in the organization structures of this emergency council. Most of the activists who were operating even earlier were involved in it all over Kosovo.
Okay. And with whom did the municipal council for emergencies, with whom would they have contact? I think you mentioned a couple earlier, but I just wanted to know more about that. I think you mentioned just earlier the Mother Teresa Association and the Red Cross. And with what kind of contacts were those?
përveç qeverisë
Other than the provisional government that funded it, there were part of its activities were Mother Teresa organization, the Red Cross, and other organizations. I can't tell you which they were, but I know that they supplied us with aid.
What was did you have any particular function in that municipal council for emergencies, or was it?
në këshill organizativ
In this, as a beginning, in this council, and then I was active in the distribution of aid that we received.
And to which parts would it be distributed?
në gjitha pjesët
In all the parts of Kosovo, but mainly in Pristina, because there were displaced people there, and we had to find a way how to supply them with medicaments, foodstuffs, and accommodation.
Do you recall when the airstrikes in Kosovo, the NATO airstrikes in Kosovo, started?
24.
Yes.
When is the court?
On the 24th of March.
1999, I guess.
So,
Yes, yes, 99.
These activities of the Municipal Council for Emergencies, was this operating before the NATO airstrikes already?
activiteiten de
The activity of this council was ongoing even before NATO airstrike. It distributed aid to the population and people in it who were paralyzed, sick, wounded.
When did it actually come into existence, this Municipal Council for Emergencies? Roughly, if you...
se koptova pyytänä.
I didn't understand your question, I'm afraid.
This Municipal Council for Emergency started to operate before the airstrikes I'm speaking about.
Samkui tuot,
To my recollection, it was 1 year ago.
You mean 1 year before the start
Para-
of the airstrike?
Yes, before the airstrikes of NATO.
And you just mentioned the 24th of March, the beginning of the airstrikes. Did the situation in Pristina change at that, after that particular moment?
pasti moment.
After this moment in time, as soon as the NATO airstrike started on the 24th of March 1999, the situation changed considerably. The paramilitary and military Serb forces blamed us for the NATO strikes. And that being the case, they started to enhance their repression against the population, killing people, displacing people, maltreating people, without sparing women, elderly, children, paralyzed people. So the pressure grew up. And we were, in their eyes, guilty for NATO airstrikes.
What kind of actions would these forces, Serbian military police or
Defense Counsel, can you give us an insight where you're going to with this examination? Because I would like to have, I don't want to interfere with the defense case, but I would like to have also some insight in the relation to the indictment. So please, you have the floor. And before we do that, I will ask the witness, Mr. Witness, do you speak English? Can you understand English?
Ngapak.
A little, I understand.
Then I will ask Madame Court Usher to usher you out of the courtroom, because I prefer that this is discussed without you here present.
Okay.
Okay.
Defense Counsel, you have the floor.
Yes, Your Honor. Well, the activities of the witness, they are kind of a red line in all his activities during the period of what we are speaking about, and therefore I think it was first useful to determine a little bit what the activities actually are, what is the organization, and so on, so that we will not need any further questioning on those issues. So as these activities are, in my view, a kind of a red line within his activities during the period of March and April of 1999, I thought it was a very useful and natural way to start with the witness about that. So that is actually the direction that I'm going.
But what we now got is a part of declaration on what the Serbs were doing according to the witness in that part of Kosovo. And I don't want a lengthy examination on that because we know about that, we have read that in the books, and he is here to give a specific account on what he knows and what he has seen in relation to your defense case, in relation to the indictment.
Yes.
And yesterday we also had a kind of interrogation which became very broad, and I really urge you to be more specific in your questioning and in the type of questions you want to elicit from the witness, because I won't allow you to proceed in this way by eliciting information that is not directly relevant. We won't be spending our time here, although it can be very interesting, but it's not the scope of why we are here together.
Okay.
Madame Court Usher, could you please bring the witness back in? Welcome back, Mr. Witness. We will now proceed with the examination by the defense counsel. Defense counsel, you have the floor.
Yes. I'll finalize this part. Mr. Witness, you just made a little bit clear what was happening in Pristina, what Serbian forces were doing there, and did that make actually a difference in the distribution of the materials that you needed to distribute to the population? Did the people remain in Pristina, or did your activities go beyond that?
Voortzettingsdarauf.
The military, police, and paramilitary forces expelled the population, and due to the repression and violence, the population was forced to move out from Kosovo and go to Macedonia and to the villages in the outskirts of Pristina. The entire activity of the Emergency Council decreased. It was impossible to operate, and the population and we were forced to make plans on how to move out from Pristina. Us activists to go to the outskirts, whereas the population to go to Macedonia and to various villages. And this is how the expulsion was conducted. It was by force, with violence.
Did you leave Pristina yourself to go elsewhere?
Po.
Yes.
That you left?
On së bashku
I, together with my friend Sabit Krasniqi, now deceased, we continued to Ayvalia in order to move to Mramor to see how would it be possible to organize a new structure for humanitarian aid, because there was a population displaced in large numbers.
So it was on the day that the airstrikes began that you left?
Defense counsel, could you ask
ashtu
the
mes
question?
datës
Defen-
It was between the 24th.
Could you ask open questions, not put the question in the mouth of the witness, please?
So my question was, which date, with the reference point of the 24th of March when the airstrikes began, what was the date that you actually left Pristina?
unë u largova
I left after 12 o'clock on the 24th of March. The 24th going to the 25th.
And where did you initially go?
ne vazhduam rrugën për
We continued to Haivali village. We deemed it reasonable to go to this village because it seemed impossible to withdraw from that area.
And with who did you go to Haivalia?
me Sabit
With Sabit Krasniqi, a friend of mine, now deceased.
Defense counsel, I think we had this question, and he said that he went to this town and then to Mramor, and that he went with Sabit Krasniqi, now deceased. That's on page 13, line 13 till 17.
Yes. I want to go step by step through the movements of this gentleman, because I think that is relevant.
I
to
understand, but all
So-
this we had.
Yes. From Haivalia, did you actually stay in Haivalia? And if so, how long did you stay there?
nuk më kujtuhet sakt
I don't remember exactly, but I remember that we stayed until we drew up a plan how to retreat. Because of the air strikes, and I think there was a military base, ammunition base there. There was an explosion, and because of this explosion, many people were injured, both from the ranks of the Serbian army and police, but also from the population. We were not able to verify whether the victims were Serbs or Albanians or soldiers. We just saw that this happened. We moved out from there, and the paramilitary forces assumed that it was impossible for the Albanians to be there in that part. So we left, taking upon ourselves this great risk.
Is that with who is that? When you say we,
Defense
left.
counsel, did you get an answer to your question how long he stayed there?
I don't think so, Your Honor.
Because that is your question, and
Yes.
it's not upon me to verify if you get answers to your question and
Right.
that we get a complete different answer. So if you have a answer, elicit that answer,
Yes.
stop the witness and continue. Please continue.
Yes, Mike, you did not go alone, you said. And my question was, when you went to Haivalia, for how long did you stay there? That is the only answer that I'm asking you. Or was it
Para precies niet
Approximately, to my recollection, about 24 hours. I think this was how long we stayed there.
and where did you move next then?
was door am Roegen.
We continued towards Mramor.
And I take it, is that together with the friend that you were just indicating, Sabit Krasniqi?
Was
Yes, together with him.
Did you go with him in Bramor? Which area?
was door am Ramor.
We continued to Mramor, and my late friend was familiar with that terrain. That area was where he was from. He was from the village of Grashtica and knew the area very well. So we went to a part of Mramor, and from there we continued on to Butovts, to a cousin of his who was a doctor by profession. His last name was Krasniqi. I do not remember his first name. But he was a family of my friend. I apologize.
Did you stay there in that place in Butovs?
Ook hem zijn roe.
Yes, we stayed for 2 days approximately, to my recollection, about 36 hours. Approximately.
Were there in Butovs people that you knew, that you met there?
Po
Yes, I met with persons who had moved from Pristina to that area. That area was flooded by people. It was simply impossible to see or notice someone that you know because of the number.
When you were there with Sabit Krasniqi, you said you...
Defense counsel,
Yes.
I understood that he went with Sabit Krasniqi to the first place, but I did not hear, but my apologies if I missed that he went all the way with him along. Could you please ask him that?
Did Sabit Krasniqi come with you to Butovs?
Nicolas en Bas.
We were together on a regular basis with Sabit Krasniqi. He knew that area very well.
Okay. And then you stayed in the relative of Sabit Krasniqi's house, I understand. And At the time,
Yes.
you said that there were people, it was flooded with people, but were there any people that you knew from before who were there?
Po ju konkreetselt jõudis.
Not that people that I would know in concrete terms, but Sabit knew many of them since he was from the area, and I was just there as an observer.
The other people from the Municipal Emergency Council or LDK, did you meet any of those there?
Un personalist ju.
Personally, I didn't. Sabit met with some and received advice necessary for the time. Particularly on guarding the documentation we had with us and the distribution of supplies. So Sabit dealt with that material. It was necessary to leave the material somewhere, but personally, as I said, I didn't deal with this. I was not involved.
Do you recall if you met Salih Mustafa in Butovs?
Un personalist.
Personally, I did meet with Salim Mustafa, and we discussed, Sabit and I, and received instructions on where the activists of the Emergency Council were located, and he told us where we should go to continue the organization that we had previously in Pristina. We continued with Sabit. We went together to Butovs again because of its configuration. It's a large area, a hilly mountainous area.
Because I first have another question to you.
Defense counsel?
Yes?
Just a general remark. Wait for the witness to finish and then continue with your question.
Yes.
For the translation to be on the transcript.
How come that you actually met Salih Mustafa there? In Butovs, obviously.
Door the shumë rasisht.
It happened by chance. At the moment I was somewhere else, but I found out that Salih Mustafa was there in Butovs and went there. Sabit invited me and said, come here, we should discuss and make plans on how to assist the population. So I went, we met, and we got the instructions on meeting the activists of the Emergency Council in the house of the interpreter, didn't get the name. Correction, Mustafa Sohbi is the name.
Your Honor, I take a pause because my screen has gone blank.
Shall I call somebody of Shall I call somebody of the IT service?
It looks as if I need to put my password in, but let me first try.
Okay. I assume that court officers already calling for backup.
Laat meer. Why does this not run?
No, you
properly?
have to do it here.
Could you switch off the microphone? Defense counsel, do we need further assistance?
It works. Excuse me. What was the name that you last mentioned? The name that I could not catch. Mr. Witness, you mentioned the name of somebody. Let me see where that is.
Emrin Sabit Krasniqi.
The name of Sabit Krasniqi, is this what you mean?
Perhaps page 18, line 22, sorry, that's the
Yes,
name that defense
but I-
counsel.
That's right.
Yes, but I
see
think
it
that the question should be re-asked and then to clarify
Yes,
if it's necessary, and not giving us the name.
Sorry. Yes. Sir, you mentioned Mustafa Sopi just now. Who is that?
Mustafa Sopi
Mustafa Sopi was a professor who taught me, Salim, Mustafa, and many others. And he had his house in Butovsk.
I see. And what happened in that house?
Let's be in a
That is, all of us who worked in the emergency council began to organize ourselves to prepare strategic plans on how to help the displaced persons in that area.
Do you recall how long after your arrival you actually met Salim Mustafa?
Defense counsel, could we specify arrival where?
Arrival in Butovsk. Can you recall roughly how long it was after your arrival in Butovsk when you met Salim Mustafa?
sa me kujtohet
As far as I remember, it's been a long time now, but as far as I remember, it was 28th or 29th of March, within this approximate time period. I cannot give you a specific date or hour, but it's from the 27th, 28th, 29th, around these dates.
I understand. Mr. Witness, I'd like to ask the panel to get on the screen the statement of Mr. Yaqub Ismaili,
Defense,
Yes.
Defense counsel, why would you like to have his statement on? The normal way is that we elicit information from the witness in court, and if we need a prior statement to refresh memories, then we do it. But I would say, just ask the questions you need to ask to.
I can ask him, Your Honor. I just I noticed that there is a discrepancy here in the English text of the witness statement and what the gentleman just said now.
Okay.
So therefore, I just wanted to make clarification whether that would be this moment in time to do that.
Yeah. Mr. Witness, would you mind to take off your headphones, and I will ask the court usher to accompany you out of the courtroom. I want to discuss something. Thank you, Madam Court Usher. Defense counsel, on what topic is it that you would like to ask him a question now that the witness is not here? Because when you said that you were asking CMU to call up a document, it seemed like yesterday that it had no relation with what we were discussing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, Your Honor, on page 4, there is a different date at the bottom of this and I think it's a clear mistake in the as it was laid down in the document, and I just wanted to make sure whether that error is indeed an error in the document, or whether it is a error of the witness. He is clear on this.
Very well, but could you not ask him some more about how certain he is with regard to the dates that we have been discussing?
Yeah.
And then you can always then go back to this prior statement.
I can go back to that, Your Honor. It's just that I thought in the moment in time would be best to do that now, as we have arrived on these, on this date, on the particular date.
Yes, no, I see your point. It's and no doubt about that, but
okay.
you might insist some more
I will
on
first
this
go
point.
through that. I just wanted to notify anybody. I think that in order to show this to the witness, then we could hear from him whether that is in fact correct or whether that is incorrect, and what his recollection is. I mean, I think he was
I
up
see
to
your
now
point,
clear.
Defense Counsel, but for our as a general remark,
Yes.
could you try to introduce somehow for the panel why you would like to call a prior statement with regard to what you are discussing, to make it clear for us? And
Sure.
in that way, I don't have to interrupt you, because
anyway.
there's no need. I don't want to interrupt you
Yeah.
when you are doing your examination. Yeah?
This was the point that I was trying to.
Now it's clear. Madam Court Usher, could you please usher the witness back? Welcome back, Mr. Ismaili. Thank you. Defense Counsel.
Thank you.
We spoke about you leaving Pristina and eventually arriving in Butovsk. And I just wanted to once again ask you when was that approximately when you arrived in Butovts?
We arrived in Butovts approximately on the 26th of March. This is in approximate terms. I do not remember exactly.
So is this then the appropriate moment to ask the witness? Mr. Witness, I would like to show you a document that was drawn up by the defense at the time of your testimony. And this document, the ERN number is let me see what the ERN number is. The ARN number is DSM 00187-196 200196. So it's DSM 00187-200196. And if you could please have the Albanian version of that as well. That is DSM 00688-069. And of that, I would like to have page 4 on the screen, the very bottom of page 4. Mr. Witness, these are the documents. The left one is in the Albanian language and the right one is in the English language. And I would like you to ask you I would like to ask the court officer to indicate in the Albanian versions the not the last question but the one before. That starts with the words akeni, and that is the paragraph that I'm referring to. And then I would like to ask the court officer to highlight the last sentence of that. Yeah, just yes, that is the. I think that is the last sentence, indeed. Mr. Witness, this is the Albanian translation of the English document, and as you can see, you read there the sentence. Could you read that sentence, please?
Yes.
Defense counsel,
Yes.
I think that's not necessary.
Yes,
You can just
okay.
tell him
Okay.
that we all can see that what his statement
Yeah.
was, and you can say it
Yes.
out loud in this
Okay.
courtroom, and then you can ask him
Yes. No
how it
problem.
can be that there's a difference between what he has stated before in this courtroom and what he said to you on apparently, what is it, the 1st of April 2021.
Right. As you can see, the date there is written that it is the morning of 27th of April if I recall well, after midnight of the 26th of April. That is what is written. My question is that correct?
Defense counsel, could you also state, oh,
No, just for the record, this part is consistent with what the witness stated today at trial, so it's, I don't think there is the need to read this part to the witness, Your Honor.
I don't,
I apologize. This part, the witness statement, is pretty much consistent with what the witness has stated today at trial.
I don't think
no,
so.
wait, there's a problem with the date. There's a problem with the date. Could you, so I think he can ask the question, but could you give the context? Because you're now discussing about the date, huh? But could you make the whole sentence to what that date is referring to?
Mr. Witness, is the date of your arrival the date that is written there?
Your arrival where,
in
defense
Butovs.
counsel? Yeah, but
Yeah.
it has to be clear. We have to speak out here.
Is the date that you arrived in Butovs the date that is written there, or is it just what you said just today here in court?
In der Ruhe,
Distinguished lawyer, it's a matter of translation, I think. There must be some mistake. When I read out the statement here, I already pointed it out. It's not a matter of 27th of April, but 27th of March. It's a translation error, I think.
schiefet geraten dan in matut,
Because further down in the statement, you can see that I refer to March, not to April.
I understand. And to be clear on this, do you recall when you said, when you gave the interview to us, that which date did you state to us at that time?
interview
The interview that I gave to you, I referred only to the 24th of March, not to the 27th of April. It's a mistake. It's a technical mistake. I don't accept this date here.
Much. Very well. We can remove the documents.
Thank you, Mr. Court Officer.
And obviously your arrival then was 26th or 27th of March. And my question is, how long after your arrival in Butovs on one of these two dates, how long after did you meet Salim Mustafa? Do you remember that?
I already stated that it's an issue for me to mention accurate dates after 23 years. But I think it was in March. It may have been 27, 28, 29, around these 3-4 days. I can't be accurate right now. It's impossible for me to remember, and I have issues with my memory.
The meeting with Salim Mustafa took place in at the house of the one that you mentioned, Mustafa Sopi, or was it elsewhere?
takimi
The first meeting took place in Butovs, not in the house of Mustafa Sopi, but in the cousin of Sabit Krasniki. He was a doctor. Personally, I didn't have any direct contact with them, but the instructions to go to the emergency council and where the persons, the members of this council were in Butovs at Sabit were received by Salim Mustafa. I didn't have any direct contact at that moment. But he was there.
Some point that you had more contact with Salim Mustafa after that initial meeting?
basi takimi
After this meeting, we had other meetings when we settled in the house of Mustafa Sopi. We started to organize our efforts regarding humanitarian aid and started our operation in real terms to provide aid to the displaced population. And then there, at Mustafa Sopi's house, he came, but I wasn't there present. I was at a place where I had to be because the Serb forces were very close. It was a strategic point. I had to be there to follow up what was happening because we were afraid that an offensive might be launched at any moment.
You were not
moj
yourself located at Mustafa Sopi's house, but at the strategic point. What was that strategic point exactly?
kjo pikë strategji
It was a road that now often was frequented by Serb forces. It was a very narrow road, impossible, I would say. And from Mustafa Sopi, I got instructions to be there because of that eventual arrival and operation of the Serb forces. And I had to know what was happening to inform the persons that had taken positions somewhere near. So in that position, where Salim Mustafa came to Mustafa Sopi, he told Mustafa Sopi told Salim Mustafa that this person is here and there, here and here in this point. He was curious because of my humanitarian activity and the plans I had in mind on how to supply the population with medicaments and foodstuffs and so on. He was curious to contact me directly. As I said earlier, he didn't have direct contacts with me earlier, but only with Sabit Krasniki. But as I said, he was eager to know me, to see me, and to establish direct contact with me, and to think about, to design a strategic plan on how to supply the civilian population in that part. So Salim Mustafa came to the point where I was stationed.
aty kena vazhdu
There we continued.
Please. I see Mr. Prosecutor standing. You have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. If we could, perhaps, if Defense Counsel could clarify whether what was the initial meeting that he had with Salim Mustafa, because the question was, and if after this initial meeting, he saw Salih Mustafa again. And so I understand that there had already been a meeting with Salih Mustafa. But now it appears from the witness's answer that is the first time on this strategic point that he actually met with Salih Mustafa.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. I will, Defense Counsel. To be honest, I was wondering too. But I was hoping that it would come up. But please, could you ask that question?
It was my understanding. It was my different understanding that I had of the witness. That first was a.
Can we ask him instead
Sure.
of
Okay.
making a summary?
So, Mr. Witness, to be clear, the very first meeting that you had with Salih Mustafa, not alone, but with others, the very first time that you met him, where was that? It was not completely clear.
Takimi
The very first official meeting that I knew him was at the point where I had received instructions from Mustafa Sopi to monitor the security situation in that area that I mentioned earlier, the road, which was a strategic point to monitor the security situation. This is where officially I got introduced to him. The meeting that I referred earlier, it was a meeting where Sabit Krasniqi met him. I didn't know him, so I can't say that I had a meeting with him.
For my understanding now, is there also something like an unofficial meeting where you saw him and you did not know him because you are insisting on this official meeting, but is there an unofficial meeting?
In that meeting between Sabit Krasniqi and him, I didn't know him. I was present, but stood indifferent, away from them. Because he didn't make any impression on me. I mean, I was just there.
So you were present there, but you did not have any particular contact at that time with him. Is that what I need to understand from it?
Yeah, I was far from him. I didn't know him.
And afterwards, this was what you call the official meeting. It was at the place where you were staying, that strategic point, I understand. And
Yes.
do you recall if you discussed any matters that he was doing, actually? Did he tell you what he was doing? What kind of activities he was undertaking?
Salim Mustafa
Salim Mustafa, at that meeting, we discussed only about strategic plans, how to operate, how to enter Pristina, to supply the civilian population with weapons, medicaments, and other supplies. We got a pen that he had on him and a notebook, and he asked me where are the medicaments stores, because the population needed them, and foodstuffs depots. But he wanted to know more about, especially about the medicaments storage houses. So we started to discuss how we could get these medicaments, what would be the best possible route to take these medications and get them out of Pristina. This is what we discussed. I wouldn't say that discussion lasted 2 hours, but they went on for up to 7 hours or more until we got tired.
Ftaft edhe ka qenë ku
It was relatively dark. We didn't know that there were old graves there, very old graves, and unkept. And we just lied down there, and he looked at my bag to see what I had inside. And there were medicaments, in my bag. Various medicaments.
Mr. Witness, to give an answer to the question you are posed and not to elaborate too much. And from now on, really stick to that. Give an answer to the question, and if we need clarification or we think we need more information, we will ask you and it will be added. No? Thank you.
As you said, you were discussing how to get the medicaments out of Pristina. But where would these medicaments would have to be going to? What would be the destination? Where would they be stored?
mos planin strategjik që
According to this strategic plan we worked on together, the medicaments were planned to be in Butovs, to be stored in Butovs. He asked us to protect them, to store them in a suitable place. And he asked us to build some depots to store them, and this is what we did actually.
That's and then we will
And what kind of storage did you build, or what kind of suitable place did you make?
I'm under the impression that the witness does not understand the question.
I was just trying to read through. But so what kind of storage place would that be?
do ishte në
We would build it in the forest, in a place which was well hidden, for fear of Serb forces discovering it if they passed by.
bile mos vrejen se ku janë.
So that people didn't know where it was located.
Say we built that. Who do you refer to when you say we built that?
Pa nuk e ndërtuam vetëm
It was not myself and Salim Mustafa that built it. All of us were present there, built it. That's why I say we, because it was a large number of activists from the Emergency Council that were involved in it.
But Salim Mustafa and you both helped building this together with other activists?
Defense counsel, I read here that the victim said it was not myself and Salim Mustafa that built it. So he has answered that question, he has said it.
Yeah, I just want to make clear, I want to make sure whether that is indeed what the witness says, because I understand it differently. And I want to make sure whether he indeed did not have any active role in it. So that's why I want to ask that question.
Yeah.
And
But
if you, I mean,
Defense Counsel, what I want to avoid and what I'm seeing is that you are repeating questions and that is not necessary.
yeah,
So
Well,
if you really think
I
that
just
you
want
have
to
no...
get to the truth of it.
Defense
Yes.
Counsel, please, when I talk,
Yes.
please wait, but not for me, although
No,
it would be respectful to wait, so please, but also for everybody present here, that we cannot have a proper discussion if you interrupt me, because it has to be translated. If you really think it's necessary, please repeat the question, but I hope you see my point.
Mr. Witness, oh, sorry.
Defense Counsel, we are approaching 11 o'clock,
Yes.
so please keep it short so that we can close for the break.
It's page 32, line 23, and the translation, and that is, I think it is necessary to ask the question again, because I don't think it was properly laid down in the English text. That's why. Mr. Witness, did you and Mr. Mustafa, Salih Mustafa, participate in building these storage places? Did you help?
اون کامار پی
I took part. Salim Mustafa did not take part.
Or what did he do?
نو کامیدی
I have no idea. I didn't ask him where he went.
In the period of time that you were busy to build these bunkers, would you see Mr. Salih Mustafa regularly?
Έχω πάω το χελεβίς
I saw him on the move with Mustafa Sopi.
At the bunkers, or the storage places?
Oh, Your Honor, a more proper question would be, where did you see him, rather than trying to feed the answer to the witness?
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. Defense Counsel, could
Yeah.
you pose an open question?
Yeah, where else did you see him?
Salim Mustafa لقا
I saw Salim Mustafa at the house of Mustafa Sopi. And sometime I saw him when he was on the move on the ground where we were located.
And
Defense Counsel, it's almost 11 o'clock.
then let's keep it for this moment.
Yes, very well. Thank you, Defense Counsel. Mr. Witness, you will be ushered out by the court usher, and we see you back in half an hour. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Court Usher. We will break and we will resume in 30 minutes.
All rise.
Welcome back again. I see that we are in the same composition. Yes, so for the record, very well. And then there is a point that I would like to clarify with the defense. Defense counsel, could you clarify to the panel which was the procedure when taking the statements for the witnesses for the defense? Because we see there's an English version signed by the witnesses, and then on every page they have their initials. And I see that there is an Albanian translation, but we see that they are Albanian speaking. So for our better understanding, could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, we had no Albanian translation signed or so by any of the witnesses. Basically, the English text was the going text. We would go through it. I remember that these were very long days and very long hours. Took about 12 hours or so sometimes. But those were basically it. Just type up whatever the witness had to say. Afterwards.
In English?
Yes. Yes. It would be translated, of course, by Mr. Pelay. It would be done at the same time. And we would go through it again. And that's how we worked that way up. And as you could see, there is a clear error in it that was obvious. But I mean, that is what happened. Can't make it different than it was.
I'm not referring to the
Yeah.
apparent, the point
Yeah.
You made. Just for my understanding, let me summarize it, and if I understood it wrong, let me know. The witness would be talking in Albanian. It would
Yes.
be translated into English. That would be written down.
Yes.
That statement would be, you would go through it again with the witness, and if they would agree, it would be signed.
That's right.
And then comes my interpretation. Then afterwards, this witness statement in English would be translated back, as to say, to Albanian.
That's
Is that
right.
what I?
Yes, that's that we had an Albanian version of it. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So
Yes.
then, because that's the reason that it's written Albanian translation.
Yes.
Okay, very well.
Okay.
Thank you. Good. Then we will issue the witness in, and then I will give you the floor, defense counsel, to continue with your questioning, and I will be informed soonly how many minutes you will have already used for the questioning. Madam Court Usher, could you bring the witness in, please? Thank you, Madam Court Usher. Welcome back, Mr. Ismaili.
Yes, Judge.
Thank you.
We will now continue with your questioning by the defense counsel. Defense counsel, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Witness, you already told us when was the initial meeting that you had, I mean, with the initial meeting, the meeting in which you were present but did not have contact with Mr. Mustafa. You told us when you had that when that occasion was. My question is, the next time that you met him, how many days was that after that first occasion on which you were just a bystander?
Sa mu më kujtohet,
As far as I remember, that was somewhere in the beginning of April, what I said earlier. It was in the beginning of April, 7th, 8th of April. From the first meeting where I did not take part to the second meeting, there were 7 or 8 days between to make the plans, operational plans, how to enter Pristina, how to retrieve the medication. So that was 7 or 8 days after. It was in the beginning of April.
You were speaking about making the plans, or making plans. Could you tell me, was also Mr. Mustafa participating in the meetings when these plans were made?
Defense Counsel, I think that on page 30, it's set exactly, Salim Mustafa, that meeting we discussed about strategic plans, how to operate, how to enter Pristina,
Yeah.
to supply the civilians.
Yeah,
He has
it
said
was
there
asked-
that
it
he was present. He already said that.
Okay, I did not want to say you were present, and it was a step-up question to another question.
Yeah, but you asked something that has already been asked.
Okay. Well, who else participated in those meetings to make plans?
në atë moment, për këto
At that moment, regarding these plans, it was only myself and Salim Mustafa. There were medicament supplies in my house. My sister, my brother, they all worked in the medical faculty, and because of the dramatic situation, because it was a war, we had people internally displaced from other parts, and we needed to assist them with medicaments, and I informed him about the amount of these medicaments in my house.
Mr. Witness, please answer the question. Don't elaborate. That was not the question. The defense counsel asked you, yeah, who was, or if there was somebody else present. It suffices if you answer that. If he wants to know more, he will be given the floor to answer more. Is that clear? Yeah, and I've seen that, prosecutor, but I want to know if it's clear for the witness. Because this question, I already told you before, Mr. Witness, please answer the question and stick to that. Mr. Prosecutor.
Your Honor, I also would like to ask that we don't overstate, or that we state the record correctly, because defense counsel asked who else participated in those meetings to make plans. Now, my understanding is that the witness so far has referred to one instance, one meeting in which they discussed these issues. There were no more than one meeting in which so far with the witness discussed plans with Salim Mustafa, according to what has been stated today.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. That is correct, isn't it, Defense Counsel?
That's right, Your Honor.
Okay, very
That's
good.
right.
We have now stated that for the record, that there was only one meeting. Please proceed.
There was one with
Regard to
Salih,
this, with regard to this
this
topic.
issue. Yes. Were there any plans made by you or Mr. Mustafa Sopi that were discussed?
Defense Counsel, with whom and when?
That is what the question is about.
No, no.
Yeah,
Were there, But I don't know where.
First, the question is, were there any other plans discussed with you or Mr. Mustafa Sopi? And then the next question is when and where?
I think it's not clear, and I want to understand what you are asking.
Were there any other plans?
Yeah, but just, it's so general, defense
That is
counsel.
indeed general with...
Yeah, but it can be,
Mr.
sometimes it is
Well, I
too
mean,
general. No,
we
please
are-
let me talk.
Mhm.
This is, for my understanding, too general,
Okay.
and I ask you to rephrase it and to make it more concrete.
Mr. Witness, in the period of time that you were there in Butovs or on your own location, yeah, were there any other plans in that period of time that were made by you or Mr. Mustafa Sopi?
Jó.
No.
And was there any other meetings that you had in the period of time? Let me rephrase it. In the period of time that you are discussing, so from upon your arrival up to your meeting with Salim Mustafa, and I mean the meeting in which you were a bystander. In that period of time, were there any plans made by other activists who were there in Butovs?
Planer konkrete,
In terms of concrete plans for me to enter as an individual to Pristina and retrieve the medicaments, these plans were between me and Salih Mustafa, but later on, these plans involved Mustafa Sopi and others.
Okay. I earlier spoke to you about your first, what you might call official meeting with Salih Mustafa. From that moment on, for about how long did Salih Mustafa stay in Butovs, or would you see him? Could you give us an estimate how many days that would be? Or
Defense counsel, should not you not first ask him if he had seen him after that?
Well,
Because
I
now
can
you're
ask
already.
that, Your Honor. That
No,
is-
no. You're already implying that he did.
Well, after your first meeting with Mr. Salih Mustafa, your official meeting, did you see him also afterwards?
po,
Yes.
For approximately how many days did you see him afterwards, or how many times did you see him afterwards there?
staat det moet het.
It could be 7 or 8 days, approximately.
Era dit.
The second time.
And do you remember that he, at some point, left, or did he say goodbye to you, or did he otherwise say that he would move elsewhere?
Nog een kwijt
I don't remember, but I do remember that there was some wounded and that he moved went to where those wounded persons were. I did see him there on 2-3 occasions on the move.
And there, when you say there, where do you mean?
I mean the house of Mustafa Sopi.
And do you know of anything about where he needed to go, in which region, or was it in town, or where was it? Do you know anything about that?
I don't remember. Personally, I don't remember.
On the occasions that you met Salih Mustafa, what would he be wearing? What kind of attire, what kind of clothes would he be wearing?
Salih Mustafa did not have a special kind of attire. He had a waistcoat that resembled those of a hunter's. So apart from that vest, the rest of his attire was civilian clothes.
Were there any insignia on that vest or whatever he was wearing? Any particular insignia?
I personally did not see any.
He would be carrying a weapon.
Yes.
You know what kind of weapon that would be?
I don't remember. It was a type of a scorpion, but I'm not familiar with them.
In that particular period of time that we are speaking about in Butovs, what kind of clothes would you be wearing yourself?
Civilian clothes.
And would you have an arm? Would you be armed?
Yes.
Just a minute, Your Honor. Mr. Witness, were you a member of the KLA?
Yes.
Could you tell me in what capacity were you then a member?
A soldier.
And did you belong to any particular unit, brigade, or other part of the KLA?
Yes. Be a guerrilla unit.
And could you tell what that actually was, that unit then?
It was a military formation, just like any other formation.
And who else did you know then as BIA members?
Un personalist
I personally knew Mustafa Sofi, Gani Sopi, Hazir Burovci, and I do not remember the names of the others for the moment.
What was actually your function within it, within that BIA?
Siostar
As a soldier, that was my function, nothing else.
And were you or are you in any kind of veterans association of the KLA?
Oh,
Yes,
Could you tell me what kind of veterans association is that?
veteran.
veterans.
Is there a difference in the veterans associations as far as people who are in those in that association? Is there a distinction among the members of the veterans association, to your knowledge?
Saqam diani
To my knowledge, veterans fighters, veterans invalids, this is what I know.
And to which part of the veterans do you belong?
veteran luftar.
Veteran fighter.
Um, I think we covered it all. Thank you very much. We have no further questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Witness.
Thank you, the Defense Counsel. Let me confer for a moment with the court officer. Mr. Prosecutor, we are flexible unless we don't use more time than allocated to us to organize our day. So my question to you would be, would there be a precedent for the SPO to have a break now and then start with the cross-examination after, or can you continue now and then we go on till 1 in a normal, as we normally do?
Your Honor, we would be happy to take a break now.
Okay, now I'm inquiring if it's possible.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
I see the Defense Counsel standing. You have the floor, Defense Counsel.
May I ask the question, last question to the witness? It's
Of course, the Defense
happens,
Counsel, you may. Please, you have the floor. Please, the mic.
Mr. Witness, my question is, were you actually ever in combat during the period of the war?
Oh,
Yes,
In which area was that?
no,
precisely in Golak area in Butovsk.
Thank you very much. Those were the questions.
Thank you, Defense Counsel. Then what we will do now, we will have a break till 1:30, and then we will proceed this afternoon recuperating the hour we haven't done now, because we only have done half an hour. It will also give us the time to have a closer look at the last document that came in. And then at 1:30 we'll have the cross-examination of the SPO, and we have the examination by the Victims' Counsel. Yes. Mr. Witness, we will have a break now till 1:30, and then we will continue. Is that clear? Yes. I wish you a good break. Madame Court Usher, could you please usher the witness out of the courtroom? Very well, thank you. We will resume at 1:30.
All rise. All rise.
I see that we are in the same composition as before, so we can proceed. Madame Court Usher, can you usher the witness in? Please take your mask off, Mr. Witness.
No.
Welcome back, Mr. Witness. Did you
Alhamdulillah.
have a good...
Thank you.
Well,
Well.
it's now the moment for the Specialist Prosecution Office to proceed with their cross-examination. I will give the floor to them now. Mr. Prosecutor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Ismaili.
Good afternoon.
I would like to try to clear up, with your assistance, the timeline of your movements and meetings with Salim Mustafa as they emerged from your testimony this morning. You left Pristina in the early hours of 24 March 1999. Is that correct? Right after the bombing had started.
Oh,
Yes.
And about 24 hours in Hivalia, a town with that name or a similar name, and I apologize if I mispronounced it. Is that correct? Yes, Mr. Witness, I will ask you to
exact.
Correct.
to Butovts, where you arrived approximately on 26 March 1999, according to your testimony this morning. Is that correct?
Talkstone.
Yes, that's correct.
Now, you told the panel this morning that the first time that you saw Salim Mustafa, or what you called an unofficial meeting, was on or around 28 or 29 March 1999 at the house of the cousin of Sabit Krasniqi. Is that correct?
Exact.
Correct.
At that time, you two were not introduced.
You.
No, I was not introduced.
Thank you. Now, I'm coming to what you described as the first official meeting, that is, when you and Salim Mustafa actually talked. And I understand that this happened at what you refer to as a strategic point, somewhere where you were standing guard. Is that correct?
Exact.
Correct.
That is the first time you were introduced to Salim Mustafa.
Exact.
Correct.
You gave this morning was either on 7 or 8 April or 7 to 8 days after the first meeting. Does that sound right?
Oh,
Yes.
Meetings with Salim Mustafa between these two occasions. Is that correct?
ونكون بعض tak.
I had another meeting, and as soon as I entered the chamber, I want to ask Her Honor, because I have some issues with my memory. I met him again. When I left the chamber, I remembered that.
And when would this time that you forgot to tell the chamber be?
نيتن مويد يكون
In the same month, it may have been on the 20th of April, approximately. I can't be precise. We traveled together to Pristina, attempted to enter Pristina to retrieve the medicaments, but we were unable to do that. We returned. We bought some foodstuffs from some Rome guy and returned. All this trip lasted about 8 hours. I apologize to the defense lawyer because, as I said, I have issues with my memory.
So now, you just said that this may have been on the 20th of April. So this would be after the time that you met at the strategic point, correct?
Po, saktë.
Correct, yes.
Be about 12, 13 days after that, according to the timeline that you provide today. Does that sound about right?
Parafrasisht, kështu.
Yes, approximately, yes.
So now we have a brief meeting when you saw him on 27 or 28 March, first time. Second time, 7 or 8 April, or 7 to 8 days after the first meeting.
But
Is that correct? And now this time that you went
Correct.
medicines, to scout for medicines on or around in Pristina on or around 20 April, correct? Now,
Defense, SPO, Mr. Prosecutor, could you please make the pauses long enough for the interpreters?
apologies, Your
No,
Honor.
no, apologies needed,
I
but
got
we-
carried away. Yes.
Your Honor, one point of clarification.
Of course, Defense Counsel, you have the floor.
Yeah. So, just counsel to ask the question. I mean, the second time it's either 7 or 8 of April, or 7 or 8 days after the first meeting. Right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
If I remember well, that is, he gave these two statements
Yes.
separately from each other on two different moments in time.
Yes. Not that it's the same date then.
I don't understand your point, Defense Counsel. Please
March
make your point.
has 31 days, and the first meeting would be 28th, and obviously, if it would be 7 or 8 days later, it would be earlier than 7th or 8th of April.
And what is the point you want to make?
But that's why I say in the transcript it says second time 7 or 8 April, or 7 or 8 days after the first meeting.
But, Your
I
Honor,
just want
that's...
to make
That's-
sure that it is that we do not mean
Oh, yes.
the same.
Wait. For next time, if you go...
Microphone, please.
Defense Counsel, next time if you go so much into detail, it's so important that we don't influence the witness. Thank you, Victims Counsel, for pointing that out to us. So, Court Usher, Madam Court Usher, could you usher the witness out of the courtroom, please? Mr. Ismaili, you will be ushered out. I will, thank you, Madam Court Usher. I will give both the Mr. Prosecutor as the Defense Counsel the floor, and I think that the Victims Counsel has made her point. That was what you would like to say. But to come back to you, Defense Counsel, I heard the witness say both things this morning, and that is what Mr. Prosecutor has confronted the witness with.
Yes.
So, Mr. Prosecutor, would you like to make another comment?
Your Honor is perfectly, Your Honor is correct. I just reminded the witness what he said this morning. He was uncertain whether that meeting happened the 7th or 8th of April, or 7 to 8 days after the first time he saw him. That's it.
And then I can understand, Defense Counsel, that if we make a calculation, as Mr. Prosecutor did, that it was, what did you say, 13, 14 days after,
7 or 8 days.
that is, if you count from the 7th or 8th of April. But if you count from 7 or 8 days later, starting the 26th or the 23rd or 7th of March, it's some days more.
Yeah, so that was my point, that we, when the question was asked, just to make sure that it would not confuse anything. So if it is 7 or 8 days after the 28th of March, right, that's what he says, then
Yes.
you do not come to the 7th or 8th of April. That is what I'm trying to say, and that is why I reacted to the transcript. on
Yes,
that issue.
but the transcript reflected exactly what was said,
Yes.
and my suggestion would be for next time you take the floor and you say that depending on which date you take as a starting date, the calculation differs, and then it's clear for all of us. And a reminder for all of us that this witness apparently understands English, so if we want to have if we want to elicit evidence from him, it's important that we take notice that he is ushered out if we discuss matters that go into the content of the statement. Are you still standing because, Mr. Prosecutor? Because is there something else you would like to raise, or can I usher the witness in?
No, I was just standing
Yes,
to
of
continue
course.
my cross.
Very well. Madam Court Usher, could you please bring the witness in? Welcome back, Mr. Ismaili. We will continue
Thank you.
by Mr. Prosecutor.
Thanks, Your Honor. Now, during this morning's testimony, you had not told the panel about this meeting that you recalled now, but you did tell the panel about meeting Salim Mustafa one time after the strategic point meeting. And you said that that was 7 to 8 days after the meeting at the strategic point. And this is to be found in page 42 of the transcript, Your Honor. So if I now can sum it all up, do you recall stating that, or Mr. Ismaili? And this apparently happened at Mustafa Sopi's house.
Some kujtohet.
To my recollection, because a long time has passed and I have great problems with my memory, at the strategic point, that's where I met him. Where the first time, when there were about 20 or so people present, that I don't count as a meeting.
So after the meeting at the strategic point, between that meeting and the time you went to Pristina together, right, you told the panel happened around the 20th of April, were there other meetings that you had with Salim Mustafa in Butovs?
No kapos.
No, there weren't.
So you stated that at some point you were building bunkers, depots to store medicine. Is that correct?
Exact.
Correct.
Mustafa did not take part with you to the construction of these depots.
Please, I would like to stop here for a moment. And I'm Very sorry to ask you again, Mr. Witness, but please, I will have you ushered out by the Madame Court Usher, because we have to discuss something about your statement. Thank you. This morning, we had a moment of discussion with regard to who built Defense Council, who built the bunkers for the supplies, and you indicated that there had been an interpretation, there might have been an interpretation issue. Your colleague indicated that. And I asked the translation service to go into it again in order to be sure what was said, because I find it very important if we also realize that something is not interpreted well, that we all have a clear picture of it. And that's, of course, the reason, Mr. Prosecutor, that I interrupted you, because before you go into this, I want to have it clear. And apparently, the sentence should be read as, it was not only myself and Salim Mustafa that built it. Yeah? So that is what apparently was said.
But then, Your Honor, page 34, line
Yes, I know where you're...
12, Your Honor, I think that the first answer that Your Honor just provided was ambiguous, I would say. It was unclear. It could be interpreted either way. But he then stated, line 12, page 34, the provisional transcript, the question was, Mr. Witness, did you and Mr. Mustafa, Salim Mustafa, participate in building these storage places? And he answered, I took part. Salim Mustafa did not take part.
I will leave the further cross-examination to you, and there will be also a redirect if it's necessary on this point. But I just wanted to point out that the first phrase should be read as I just said, and when the witness comes back, I will also tell him. That's how I would like to proceed. But,
So,
but I can say it again. The sentence should be read as it was. Apparently, it was not translated well at the beginning, and therefore it was not reflected well in the transcript. It was not only myself and Salih Mustafa that built it.
Your Honor, because then there's this other the other answer. Perhaps we can just clear this up by asking the witness again.
Mr. Prosecutor, please proceed how you think it is necessary to proceed, just for the record. Yeah. Very well. Is there something you would like to say in addition, Defense Counsel?
No, just as the witness is informed, as you would say.
That I will inform him, yes. Very well. Madame Court Usher, could you usher the witness
Perhaps,
in?
Your Honor, I'm sorry. If,
Yes?
perhaps, does Your Honor intend to inform the witness of his answer before me asking him again? Or could I just ask the question and see what the witness answers now?
I will look at the Defense Counsel.
I think it's fair enough to say to the witness that this was not well reflected in the transcript and how it should have been read as what his answer was, and that there was then another moment that my counsel, my other colleague, is talking about, which apparently seemed not to be in line then, you know, and that is where the point. But I do think it is important that the initial thing that was said by the witness, as we at that moment already indicated, is to be told to the witness.
Your Honor, I disagree most strenuously, because the witness did not receive that interpretation. That is in English translation that we received. Yes. So any clarification concerns us, not the witness. And so he'll know the answer. So I think that without further confusing the witness's memory, we can just ask again.
I see defense counsel standing, please.
I don't think so. I think, really, it is indeed what the witness said. So if that is what the witness said, then that is what the witness said. So,
But could
we
you
had
react?
discussion-
Could you
yeah,
could
so-
you react to his to the prosecutor's?
Well, I remain on the same standpoint of view, that we first say to the witness, this is what you said at that moment in time, and afterwards you said something else, and then we can find out what is the truth on it.
Now, how we will proceed is as follows. I want the question to be asked,
Sure.
just like that, and then we will confront him with the two. If there is a problem, we will confront him with both what I read out to you now and the other phrase he used. I think that is the way we can elicit the most objective information.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Madam Court Usher, could you usher the witness in, please? Mr. Witness, we will proceed. You have the floor.
Mr. Witness, these storage depots that you built, did Salim Mustafa build them with you?
Nog kan er toe Salim Mustafa.
He did not build it together with me.
Your Honor, I will now move to a next topic in my cross-examination, as I think the timelines of the meetings with the witness is sufficiently, the timeline of the meetings is clarified as far as I'm concerned. But I see defense counsel is standing.
Yes.
I see it. Defense counsel, you have the floor.
Yeah, I think we should proceed as we just, as just was said. I don't want to get into the detail, but I think just this single question, that is not the way we intended to proceed on this matter.
My suggestion is we will have redirect, and you can then ask the questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Mr. Witness, you told the panel today that the first time that you met Salim Mustafa was the first time you were introduced was in April 1999 at that strategic point, correct? At some point, say, in April 1999.
Salim in April.
It was the beginning of April, as far as I remember.
As you stated repeatedly today, your memory does not serve you too well on these points, does it?
Exact.
Right. I have issues with my memory.
Did you keep in touch with Mr. Mustafa after the war?
Po.
Yes.
A friend of yours?
Ast.
Yes.
Close friend?
Gross.
Close. Friend. Good friend.
And how have you been? Are you in frequent contact with him in the recent years? Have you been frequently in contact with him?
Po, geen Pasco.
Yes, we have had contacts.
Please have on the screen SPOE 003-25590 to 003-25606. The first page of the document, please. Now, Mr. Ismaili, if you please, the court officer could zoom a bit further in, like it was before. Zoom in a bit more. Yes, that will do. Mr. Ismaili, do you recognize, is that your phone number on the screen? The one with your name underneath it?
Po.
Yes.
If I told you that between 24 July 2019 and 22 September 2022, you exchanged 138 instant messages with Salim Mustafa, would that sound possible to you?
Po, mund të jetë.
Yes, it might be possible.
And if I told you that roughly around the same period, 193 calls are recorded to have occurred between the two of you, albeit none of them were answered, would that sound possible, plausible to you?
Njarë të kuptova.
I didn't understand the question. Could you repeat it, please?
I'll repeat it. If I told you that roughly during the same period, between 25 July 2019 and 23 September 2022, 193 calls are recorded to have occurred between the two of you, would that sound possible?
Po, e mundur.
Yes, it is possible.
And if I told you that in the week of 15 to 23 September 2020, up until 2 days before Mr. Mustafa was arrested, a total of 27 calls.
My colleague has rightly pointed out that in the transcript it is reflected the 23rd of September 2022.
I apologize, Your Honor. I meant 23 September 2020. Thank you, Your Honor, for clarifying that. It's 2020, not 2022.
Okay. If you finish this batch of interrogation of this question, please hold on a moment. I would like to come back to you for something else.
Yes, very well.
Just after this, when you finish this batch of questions with regard to this point.
So in the week leading up to 23 September 2020, a total of 27 calls were made between your number and Salim Mustafa's number. Would that sound a possible number to you?
Po.
Yes.
And, Your Honor, in this regard, I would like to tender into evidence an extraction report of calls between the accused, Salim Mustafa, and Mr. Yaqub Ismaili. That would be around SPOE 003 25 590 003 25 606. Which is what we have on the screen now is the log of the instant messages exchanged between the witness and the accused. But now I've been asking questions about calls, and we have a log that supports the numbers that have been put into the witness.
Please proceed, Mr. Court Officer. It will be given a number as soon as possible, so then we will come back to you.
Very well. Thank you. Your Honor, I would be done with this topic, so...
I gave it a further thought what we discussed before with regard to the question you asked to the witness. with regard to the building, and I reconsider what I said before. I think it should be done as we had agreed on. So we agreed that you would ask the question and then confront him with what he said before. Because that is what I agreed on with both parties. So I know that normally the SPO conducts its cross-examination the way it wanted, but we agreed that we would do it like this, and then you changed your mind. So I see the defense counsel's point.
Yes, Your Honor. The fact is that I could read him does Your Honor want me to read him the translation as stated there on today's transcript, the answer that was given by the witness?
It's the new translation where he said. Yeah, it's going to be complicated to say it because I don't want to say it. But the translation received from the translation unit, the new one.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm afraid it's not because I don't want to do it. It's just I'm not sure I remember the word by word the translation that was given. And in fact, as I said, like I think that the translation that was the first answer to that, it was ambiguous, could have been interpreted either way. But then twice the witness has stated on the record that that was not the case with a certain degree of clarity. So,
and if yes, I see your, so you're saying I'm not sure I can accurately put the question to the witness.
That's correct, Your Honor. I'm afraid I don't want to misstate the interpretation that I don't have in front of my eyes.
Defense counsel, you have the floor. We don't want to confuse anybody.
So we just go to the transcript, and what you said was the correct translation.
Okay.
Let's say that.
I think that is fair, what the defense counsel says. So let us...
There's nothing ambiguous. I mean,
no,
this.
Wait. We are not going to discuss anything in front of the witness.
So I really hope that the SPO will not do the same then too, using such an opportunity and saying, oh, it's this or that, making any kind of qualification about it.
I don't know, Your Honor. To be honest, I think that. May I suggest this is done by defense counsel in redirect, or asked by Your Honor
What
now?
I will do is, I will do it myself, and then in redirect defense counsel, you can come back to the topic again. So, yes. Mr. Ismaili, this morning, when talking about who built these bunkers, you have just said to Mr. Prosecutor that it was, let me see, I want to state exactly what you have said. Let us see. And if I could be provided with the line, then third, okay. Page 34, and then, yes. Okay, you said, Mr. Witness, did you and Mr. Mustafa, Salim Mustafa, take part in building these storage places? Did you help? And then you said, I took part. Salim Mustafa did not take part. Correct. Isn't it?
Correct.
This morning, you were asked the same question, and You replied, "It was not only myself and Salih Mustafa who built it." And I would like to know with you, what did you mean with that when you said that? It was not only myself and Salih Mustafa who built it. Because it doesn't, maybe it's not the same as you said now, but I just want to clarify.
Dalimin,
Your Honor, the difference is in the physical work and the drafting of the plan for building the bunkers where Salim Mustafa took part. Whereas when it came to the physical work to build the depot, that's the difference. The way I understood the question was that you meant the preparation of the plan and not the physical work, because he was of frail nature. He wasn't used to do hard work. That is the difference, that we have misunderstood one another. I meant he took part in the drafting of the plan, let's say, not in the work to build it. So in the planning to build these depots and place there the medicaments, that was done by Salim Mustafa and myself. Whereas when it came to building it, all the others that were there took part. He didn't take part physically.
Okay, now,
to Dalimi,
This is the difference.
Mr. Witness, Mr. Prosecutor, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thanks for clearing that up, Mr. Ismaili. Did you exchange any phone calls with Mr. Mustafa after he was arrested on 25 September 2020?
po,
Yes.
Did you speak?
som kujtuhet,
I don't remember exactly, but I know it happened every week.
Spoke every week. And as you, as these conversations continued, did you become familiar with his case and with his defense? I'll repeat that. I'm sorry I wasn't clear. Did you discuss the charges against him or how the trial was going?
unë
I was not happy. I personally got involved, asked them what's going on. The entire life went towards humanitarian cause, and then in the end there was an indictment. So I openly spoke about my discontent.
Sorry, just a second. I understand. Thank you, Mr. Witness. I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor. That would be all.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. The turn is now for the Victims' Counsel. You have the floor. Would you like to pose any questions?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Honors, I can be quite brief. Hello, Mr. Witness. Earlier today, and for the reference, we're on page 44, line 14 of the transcript of today, you told us that you were in BIA. Is that correct?
po, sa,
Yes.
Yes, correct.
When you joined BIA,
na
In in June 1998, as far as I remember.
And how did you come to join BIA? And by that I mean, were you, for example, recruited?
I had a friend, Sabit Krasnici. We formed a council, and that council dealt with humanitarian aspects, with assistance, and it did this kind of work.
One moment to confer, please. Thank you, Your Honours. Thank you for your patience, Mr. Witness. I have one more question. Do you know who the commander was of BIA?
Up until after the war, I didn't know. I didn't find out, and I didn't know.
Thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you, Your Honours.
Thank you, Victims' Counsel. Defense Counsel, do you wish to proceed with the redirect examination of the witness?
Yes, Your Honor, a brief moment that we would like to discuss an issue. Okay.
Very well, please proceed. Could you please usher the witness out?
It takes a little bit longer.
No, I would appreciate that. I thought you were conferring with your co-counsel, but you just stood up and walked away. For next time, I would appreciate that you just indicate that you would like to talk also to your client. And if it takes some more time, then you can ask for a suspension. But I don't think we should. That's not the order I want to have in this courtroom. So please, next time, if you want to talk to Mr. Mustafa, you ask for permission, and we will, of course, do anything what is reasonable to have you confer with your client.
Sorry about Your Honor. Apologies for that. I just was noticed that apparently he wanted to talk to me, so that's why.
I don't
Okay.
care.
But the point is clear. But in that perspective, would it be possible if we get a 5-minute break or so to comfort to our client, or a little bit more? I don't know, just to make sure that we cover everything.
We will then till, let me see, a quarter, it is now 30:30.
It's
15 minutes?
it's more than enough.
No, then 10 minutes?
Sure.
Then, okay, 10 minutes. And I look at security. It's okay that we all leave the room and you stay here with Mr. Mustafa and the defense team. Okay, thank you. Good. We will resume in 10 minutes. The hearing is adjourned.
All rise. All rise.
Before we continue with the testimony of the witness, and we usher the witness in, for Mr. Prosecutor, you can file your request for admission of items like you did before, used during the testimony, by the 8th of April next week. So
Will do, Your Honor. Thank you. I just, because we had not brought up the log, I just wanted to put the court on notice that we would be tendering that on account of the answers given by the witness, even though the document wasn't brought up on screen.
yes, okay, very well. Thank you. Madame Court Usher, could you usher the witness in, please? Welcome back, Mr. Witness.
I did it.
Thank you.
We'll continue with questioning by the defense counsel. Defense counsel, you have the floor for your redirect examination.
Mr. Witness, a couple of brief questions. Prosecution said that you had a number of telephone calls with Mr. Mustafa at the time that he was coming here to the Netherlands. And my question is, did that make any difference for you on the testimony that you gave today regarding the times and the dates that you have seen him? In Butovs, in the period of March, April 1999.
Kurpar diki
No difference or impact whatsoever at a moral, criminal, material aspect. There was no impact whatsoever. It was, these were normal conversations, the ones that we usually have with each other, whether when he was free or now that he is accused here. These were normal conversations.
Did Mr. Mustafa ever ask you to say something in his favor or request that you would say something to his benefit when you would give your testimony?
you.
No.
Anybody else ever told you or asked you to testify anything else than the truth when you would testify here in court or for the defense when you were speaking about the period of March and April 1999?
Nuk e kisha leju vetën
I would not allow myself, even if someone would insist, I wouldn't allow that. But fortunately, nobody did.
Thank you very much. We have no further questions.
Thank you, Defense Counsel. Mr. Prosecutor, do you wish to proceed with rejoinder examination of this witness?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. Very well. And Victims Counsel?
No, thank you, Your Honors.
No re-examination for you. Very well, thank you. Mr. Ismaili, you have been asked several questions by the counsel for the defense and the prosecutor and the victims counsel. And I ask you to bear a little bit more with us. The panel would like to ask you a number of additional questions. And we hope and we think that it will help us to gain more clarity about topics we have already discussed today and what you've stated in your testimony up till now. Yeah. So I will give the floor now to my colleague on my left-hand side, and he will pose you some questions.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. Ismaili, on page 29 of the transcript, lines 20 to 23, you said that you were sent to monitor the security situation on the road. Could you explain to us why it was you who was sent to monitor the security situation? Because we understood that you were in charge of humanitarian assistance. So why it was you who was in charge of monitoring that road?
There was a very small number of soldiers, and one soldier couldn't stay in one place for all the time, so we rotated.
Okay, so you were doing other things than humanitarian assistance.
Yes, of course. I carried out my military duties as well.
Okay, thank you. On page 31, line 2, it is said at one point that you were supplying, together with Salim Mustafa, the civilian population in Pristina with weapons. Is that a mistake in the transcript, or is that what you said?
It is a total mistake.
To that. Thank you. On page 43, line 1 of the transcript, you said that Mr. Mustafa was on the move. Could you explain a little bit more what do you mean by he was on the move?
Many aspects.
We all, if you like, were on the move. We didn't stay in one place. We had to move because there was a population of about 12,000 people. I went to Pristina one time. One moved with wounded, with the sick. Someone else moved to carry out whatever was asked of them at a certain point. So we didn't go there just to keep still in one place and not to follow up the general developments.
Okay, so yourself in Butovsk in April 1999, you were also on the move. So you were not all the time in Butovsk.
Most of the time we stayed there because that was the main place where we stayed. But we moved at certain points whenever we were entrusted with some duty. But then we returned to Butovsk, staying at the house of Mustafa Sopi.
flas për veti.
I'm talking about myself. I had to go to Pristina, to leave Pristina, to see to monitor the situation, to get medicaments and food stuff. But when I was free of that job, I also did my other part of my responsibilities as a soldier.
On page, thank you, on page 44, line 14, you said that you were part of BIA. To whom did you report as a soldier in BIA?
Unë i kam raportu
I used to report to the late Sabit Krasniki, my friend.
And do you know to whom he himself reported?
nuk e di.
I don't know.
Nuk e di, me kaq.
I don't know, I'm sorry.
Thank you. But did you know about the structure of BIA?
Jo,
No,
jo.
no.
You reported to only one man and you didn't know about the structure.
Vetëm një personit.
Yes, to one person. That was the situation. Like, we had to be very cautious because of security concerns.
But I guess you were working also with other soldiers from BIA. You didn't know them, you didn't report to them.
Vetëm me këshillin,
I worked only with the council and with this chief, Sabit Krasniki.
And he was the chief of what exactly? Do you know?
shef I kujt?
Of whom, you say? We had a council in our neighborhood. That was the Council for the National Movement for the Liberation of Kosovo. And then we also engaged in military activity.
But did Mr. Sabit Krasniqi had a particular position in BIA?
Jo.
No, he was responsible for the neighborhood council.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ismaili. No further question, Madam Presiding Judge.
Thank you, Judge BT. Yes. Mr. Ismaili, we have now reached the end of your testimony. There are no further questions anymore from the side of the panel. And I would like to thank you for your efforts putting into giving your testimony, which I believe will help us in our efforts to find the truth. So, thank you very much. We wish you a safe journey home, and I remind you not to discuss your testimony before the specialist chambers with anyone. And I will now ask Madame Court Usher to accompany you out of the courtroom. Have a safe trip home.
Faleminderit.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Madame Court Usher. Yes, there are some points that need to be dealt with before we adjourn today. And of course, I will ask you all if there is something you would like to discuss with the panel. I would request, I will request CMU if they can ask the translation and interpretation unit if they can look into page 31, line 25, and page 32, lines 1 and 2. Because there, especially in the second reference, there is a reference made to weapons, medicaments, and other supplies. So the panel would be happy if the language service could look into that and report to the panel when they deem fit, when they can do it.
We will certainly coordinate that, Your Honors, by listening to the original audio recording. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Court Officer. Then I will issue 2 oral orders. The panel notes that the SPO has disclosed this morning, 29th of March, additional items to be used during the cross-examination of witness 500 for tomorrow. The panel further notes that the SPO has requested the panel's leave to use the newly disclosed material with witness 500 in cross-examination on Tuesday, 29th of March, via email sent at 8:56. The panel considers that the SPO has requested leave of the panel in accordance with paragraph 31 of the decision on the conduct of proceedings, and it has indicated why such material was not previously disclosed. The panel finds the SPO has shown good cause for not disclosing it previously and takes into account that it's open source material. We authorize, as a panel, the SPO to use this material in the cross-examination for tomorrow. This concludes the panel's first oral order. There's a second oral order, also for the SPO, that pursuant to the 9th decision on review of detention, that is filing 335, the SPO was ordered to file a public redacted version of its submission 339. And the panel requests the SPO to file the public redacted version of this filing. It should already have been done, but by Friday, the 1st of April 2022. And that concludes the panel's second oral order. And I see Mr. Prosecutor nodding, so we hope to see it in due time. Yes, and now, Mr. Prosecutor, is there something you would like to raise with the panel?
No, Your Honor, thank you, nothing further.
And the Victims' Counsel?
No, Your Honors, no thank you.
Very well. Defense Counsel?
And nothing in particular, Your Honor, just the public redacted version of the defense submissions regarding that review of the detention. We tried to file it today. However, the system did not really cooperate with us, but it's finished, so you'll see it shortly. And that's all what we have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Defense Counsel. Now, then we will resume tomorrow, 30th of March at 9:30 with the testimony of witness 500, and that is Mr. Hazir Borovici. I thank the parties and the Victims' Counsel for their attendance. I also thank the interpreters, the stenographer, the audiovisual booth, and the security for their assistance today. The hearing is adjourned.
All rise.